Thank you for joining the October 2023 VMware TAM customer webinar. This webinar is organized by the TAM organization to provide our customers the opportunity to hear great content and interact directly with great speakers that are delivering it. Our goal is to make sure that you're getting the full benefit from your VMware software as we do these sessions. Before we get into the content today, a couple things that we'd like to go over. Our next TAM customer webinar will be on November 2nd, and in that session, members of our cloud platform product management team will provide an update on vSphere Plus and demo some of the cloud services features in that. We want you to benefit from these sessions by interacting with the speaker. So if you have any questions during today's webinar, please use the Q&A feature of Zoom, and we'll address them as we go. And at the end of today's session, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey related to the value you received from this session, and it'll ask you of any future topics that you'd like to see. So please fill that out for us. We would greatly appreciate it. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded. Your TAM can make the recording link available to you, and after a few months, the recording will be publicly available on the VMware TAM Services YouTube channel. That brings us to today's speakers and topic. We're going over Skyline Health Diagnostics, or SHD. It's VMware self-service diagnostics platform that helps detect and provide remediation to issues. And today we have Abhilash and Anshuman from our global services and R&D solution testing teams to go over SHD and how you can use this tool to manage your data center and troubleshoot and minimize product impact. So with that, I'll hand it over, Abhilash, I think to you to get us started.
Thanks for the intro, Chris. Thank you all for joining in. I know we have a huge agenda to discuss today. So my name is Abhilash. I've been with global support for about 13 years now. I'm a support technical director. And I also have Anshuman, who is part of the R&D team, who is representing Skyline Health Diagnostics. So we'll be presenting this session together today. And if you folks have any questions, feel free to drop in a message. Anshuman will make sure that these questions are answered. And we'll also take up some questions towards the end if they are leftovers. So let's quickly get started. Most of us know what is Skyline Health Diagnostics. I know the name Skyline itself, it falls under a bigger umbrella. So we have Skyline Advisor as well as Skyline Health Diagnostics. Now, the first question that comes to all of your mind, especially for the folks who are new, to this product, health diagnostics, is why do we have two products under the same umbrella, right? What's the whole goal behind it? Let's first talk about what is the prime difference between these two products, Advisor versus Skyline Health Diagnostics, and how is it going to help you as a customer or TAMs, to cater your environment and assist in faster resolution times. And then we will get into the actual, working principle of how SHD works. By the way, the acronym or the short form for Skyline Health Diagnostics is SHD. That's how we call it. But yeah, so we'll start with a basic difference between, Advisor versus SHD. And then we'll go throughout the journey of how SHD evolved. And then we will cover some use cases. I'm pretty sure most of you are most excited on the demo. We will talk about some specific environmental use cases that happens in customer environments. And then we will also talk about how to enable this in your environment and what options we have with support with SHD. All right. So that being said, what are the key differences between Advisor and SHD, right? Now, first of all, both of these products, right? So we have Advisor developed by support teams. Again, similarly, SHD also came through support, right? And now both of these are predominantly managed by engineering teams, right? That's a crux of it. Now, let's talk about what is the difference between these two products. Now, Advisor is more of a proactive kind of a product where you can, let's say I'm giving you an example, right? Before we speak about it. So let's say if there was a PSOD issue on a specific HBA driver version, right? Let's say a QLogic HBA card, with version driver, just a hypothetical situation, right? So a driver version being 1.4 has a PSOD problem in it, right? Now, advisor's due diligence is to pick up, validate if your ESXi hosts are running QLogic, and then validate if you have a version 1.4 in it, and then it will validate, and then if it finds a match, then it'll pop up a message telling that you are running a specific version of a driver on QLogic. This could trigger a PSOD with that particular version. It will proactively tell you to upgrade it, right? Now this is a crux of being proactive in terms of before the issue occurs. Now SHD started with being a reactive tool. In other words, let's say you hit a PSOD. Now the core dump, the host is out, down with the PSOD right now. You've rebooted, you've gathered the logs, and you want to figure out what happened with the host. In that case, the SHD can help you debug the logging from the kernel and then give you the analysis of what happened with the outage there. So the crux or the key difference between these two products is, and it's not the same product, okay? Let me tell you that very clearly. These two are two significantly different products with different use case. Just that it's coming under the same name called Skyline as an umbrella, right? But it is two unique, different products. Now, like I said, Skyline Advisor looks into the ESXi as an operating system and then reviews version details from that. However, SHD will look into the logs. It can validate the logs, match the signature, and then give you the exact analysis of what's happening in the environment, right? And that's the key difference between these two products. Additionally, SHD eventually also evolved to become, it was a reactive kind of a tool initially, right? And it became a proactive plus reactive tool now, where it is onboarded with a lot of other pre-checks. It does have some scheduled health checks the similar way how Skyline Advisor does, but it also has some pre-upgrade checks. We will talk about it in detail, right? Which is way different from what Advisor does. These pre-upgrade checks can help, corner case, situations where customers might ignore things like, I can give you a classic example, right? So let's say, we have a customer using VCF, right? And by design, more than one workload domain in a VCF, which has more than one vCenter, comes with enhanced linked mode by design, right? Not many customers, know about this, right? So they plan an upgrade, we all know outages can happen, right? I'm not being negative, but that is a usual environment on, there could be network outage, there could be storage outage, whatnot. So assuming that there was some network outage that happened and then your, ELM, the enhanced link mode networking broke, you might not see any service break up right away. It will only trigger an issue after or while you're doing the upgrade, right? So you're performing a vCenter upgrade, that's when you will see that, the linked mode is, the replication between the nodes are broken, and then you're now troubleshooting a problem during the upgrade maintenance window, which is an outage again, right? So how can SHD avoid that? It has capabilities, pre-checks, which can enable subtle things that customer can, tend to ignore, right? When we don't expect customers to know, all the 100, features and enhancements and log checks that, the products have. And that subtle things SHD covers as of today, right? And we'll go through the reports to how detailed it is. So in a nutshell, if I have to conclude on this slide, Advisor is more of a proactive tool which can proactively assess what's happening in the environment and then give you suggestions and recommendations. SHD, in that way is more of a reactive plus a proactive tool which can look into the logs, review the logs, and then give you the analysis. And the analysis is accurate 100%. We will talk about some numbers also in terms of how much the log, the issues can be covered, right? What is the percentage of issues we cover? So we'll go through those details in the upcoming slides. So, to talk about how SSD came into, existence, this started as, a product that was being used by GS, the support teams as such, right? So as customers, you upload the logs to us, we handled, the logs, and then as in when it came to the script server, we used to have, we still have it. So we have a internal script tool called GSS Toolbox, right? So this was the initial phase of how SSD, was, and it eventually got expanded to customers, so that we thought, why can't it benefit the customers, and so that they can have faster resolution times, right? And by looking into the logs, which I don't think any other product in VMware as of today does it. So to be, to put it in a nutshell here is that how fast can you recover from an outage instance is the key, right? So you have a system outage, you will have to recover it fast. You would not really waste time. I'm really using the word waste because we've seen, the log upload time takes, so depending upon the size of the log, especially when you have VCF and other components in it as a solution, the upload time is really longer, right? And the turnaround time for solution is also doubled when we say, logs received, the TAC analyzes the logs, comes back to you with the solution, and all of these things. So it is literally shattering your maintenance window when we talk about literally what you're doing, right? So the faster experience and the turnaround time is the key with SSD in a nutshell. So moving on, I think we just spoke about this. This is a use case, in general, when customers don't have SSD installed, right? So as in when you run into a problem, you would, probably research, some KBs based on known issues. We have a lot of KB solutions. There could be real close matches as well. So this is where SSD stands out, right? Versus any other products that we talk about. So SSD particularly matches the log snippet exact error message, and then it will give you the exact output of what the solution is, right? And that's the capability of SSD as of today. So without that, you are spending time in terms of, connecting, to Google, to, the KB database, or maybe even engaging support to, to get this going. Now with SSD in place, the precision is 100%. So let's not confuse this number here, right? So the accuracy of SSD is 100%. When I say 100%, when you hit a problem, so let's say you hit a host PSOD, right? And it was some driver validation, race condition or whatever, right? So SSD's accuracy is 100% there if it is validating with a signature. So it'll debug the code dump first, and then it will match the signature within the inventory. We'll talk about what signatures are in detail as well. So once the signatures are matched, then you will see the accurate KB that is coming out as a result. Now, you might be asking, what is this 48%? By the way, that is not 48 right now. It is around 69.3%. So I did a recent review around the SRs that we get in support in terms of how much issues SSD can cover. So we spoke about signatures, right? So SSD as of today is onboarded with 2,100 plus signatures, right? Which means we are trending the log, the volume of SRs that we get from you as a customer versus how many KBs we have versus how many problem reports that we report to engineering. All of these are validated, and we provide plugins or signatures to engineering. So Anshuman and his team, they add all these signatures into the product so that SSD is accurately picking up those issues as and when it sees it, right? So earlier it used to be 48%. I've done a recent review. It's yet to get updated in my slide though, but it is around 69%. So we saw, severity twos we could accurately hit around 69% of the volume when we saw, the plugins that SSD could cover. And that's the accuracy rate as of today. So which shows that you don't even really have to, spend a lot of time in terms of manually analyzing the logs and looking at things, where automation can help you fast track that particular procedure in a better way. So now you might have a thought process in your mind. Okay, I didn't hit, SSD did not give me a match. Then what next, right? So the ease of engaging a support engineer would be much more faster when you give the report to the engineer. So we'll talk about what is the ease there in the reports discussion during the demo. But in a nutshell, or in a short brief, right? So I would suggest that with that report, engineers can validate what's running in your environment, like coming up with what are the vulnerabilities, what are the known drivers that you have, are there any known issues with those drivers, right? All of those. So it could be related issues that that might be creeping up, which may not be relevant directly to the issue, but maybe having it could be something like a latency on your storage, right? But your VMs are somewhere reporting down. So those kind of things are caught by SSD. So as in when you give the report, the TSC can better analyze it and then validate and come back with you with the accurate, faster analysis in terms of what's happening in your environment. So let's move on. We'll touch base on the evolution of SSD. So it started somewhere mid of 2020, right? Where we had SSD in a beta phase, and we moved up the ladder. It's running 4.0.1 right now, which was released in the month of September. We have 2,100 plus plugins as of today. And we support a lot of products, right from vSphere. It covers version 6.5, 6.7, 7.x, and 8.x. We cover SD-WAN, we cover VCF, we cover vSAN as a product. We also cover Horizon, and we also started VMware Cloud Gateway recently, right? So there are a lot of different products that SSD can pick up and then troubleshoot things for you. With VCF and vCenter, we have some more enhancements that we have done with 4.x and 3.5, 4.x versions, which we will talk about in the demo. But the ease of upgrade, I mean, I've literally seen certain issues that gets dragged, especially when we have bigger solutions like VCF, VMware Cloud Foundation, right? So you have too many things in play, too many BOM components in play. As customers or SEs or even field teams may get ignored. I mean, the point is there could be failure in many different parts, which we might get overlooked, right? So, and those ones are actually covered in SSD pre-checks as of today. We call it as pre-upgrade checks, right? So we will talk about it in detail as well. So moving on, so we covered this slide in the initial. So we will talk about all the features in the demo in detail. With SD-WAN, we have about 102 plus plugins. We added about 39 new VCF signatures again. With 4.0.1, we added even more. We have about 74 plus new plugins again added for vCenter as well. That concludes the 2,100 that you're looking at, right? So as of a customer base, we have about 37,000 customers using different versions, and 15,000, that's actually 17,000 at the moment right now as we speak. So 17,000 unique customer base, across SSD, who have adopted SSD. And we have different segments in terms of some federal accounts. When I say federal accounts, the Navy-based, Air Force, and so on and so forth. So we have different customer base also using it as of today. So how does the product work? Let's talk about, in a quick architectural discussion on how this works. And we'll also cover a very key, difference between Skyline Advisor again versus SSD, right? So when we deploy SSD for the first time, it's getting deployed as an OVA appliance. You might be wondering now. I'm pretty sure this question might come into you that for the folks who have Skyline Advisor, are we saying that we need to deploy two different appliances? Unfortunately, yes. There are some discussions that these two will get eventually merged sometime. I don't have any ETA that's in the roadmap, and our product management teams are discussing this. But as of today, this is getting deployed. The SSD is getting deployed as a separate appliance altogether, and it comes under your ESXi host as a virtual machine. Now, we will talk about two scenarios where SSD can work in two different ways, right? So one, you have an internet-enabled site where SSD can connect with external network and then give you certain features and accessibility, and how SSD can work in an offline mode, right? So we'll talk about both of these scenarios. So first, let's talk about how SSD can work with internet. So you have internet connected. What SSD is capable of? SSD can directly pick up updates from your diagnostic server. So as in when there are new diagnostic signatures that are released, SSD can pick them up and then keep them updated. This happens bi-weekly, right? And it gets pushed on the diagnostic server, and SSD picks it up over the network. SSD also covers VMware compatibility, guide validation. So your HCL in terms of drivers, firmwares, your devices, all of these are covered in SSD as well. So the checks, if there are any changes in the compatibility guide database, SSD can directly pull that up over the network, as such. Now, there is always, a discussion around security. So where is my data going? What's SSD doing with my data, right? So this is something that always gets discussed, any product being installed in any customer's environment. And we understand that with all these new ransomware and other vulnerabilities that you see across, this is a common thing that should pop up in anybody's mind running a data center. Now, with SSD as of today, right? The key difference again between Skyline Advisor versus SSD is Advisor would require certain, read-only users to be enabled, and you're transferring the data or you're uploading the data to the cloud or the VMware, database. So SRs with logs are being uploaded as and when you feel that, the issue is not resolved. There are no recommendations, so you can use log assist via Advisor and then push the logs to Skyline Advisor, right? Now with SSD, we have made it exactly the opposite. So with SSD, we've secured it so well that as and when the diagnostics is done, SSD does not retain any log information. So nothing is retained in the TAM directory of your server. It's deleted right away. Right, there's no upload of any log information, nor we are asking user specific information from cloud, right? So we don't upload anything to the cloud. So that's keeping it secured with the customer data. That's one. Now you might be seeing telemetry. So what is this? So this is one information that goes out if you have the internet connectivity along with CEIP, the customer experience improvement program enabled. So what happens with telemetry is there are a number of plugins which we spoke about, the signatures in your SSD. So we are validating all these executions on different customer environments on how many signatures are getting executed and are there any trends between these signatures. If so, that will get reported to us, and then our engineering team will plan fixes for that specific component or the product at the back end. So that's the only telemetry data that we gather as an information. Now, any new upgrades are also available from SSD when it is working online over internet, right? Now, let's talk about the offline mode, how SSD can completely work in an offline mode. So with air gap environments, you might have dark sites, which is not allowed with any external internet connectivity. SSD is the key for such environments, right? So you can work SSD without any external internet. It can execute all the 2,100 plugins within the server itself, within the appliance itself, and validate and let you know what the issue is. So that's a key difference between what Advisor does versus what Skyline, Health Diagnostic does or SSD does. So SSD can completely work offline. You might be thinking, when we say offline, won't it need any execution requirements during the diagnostic checks? No. So as in when the logs are collected, it will, parse it through the diagnostic bundle, validate the log data and everything. And then once the diagnosis is done, it is discarding the logs right out of the appliance. So it is addressing two things by doing that. One, we're not using any customer sensitive data within the appliance. And the second thing is your SSD is not spaceful. So you're not worried about, SSD might go full someday. It's not keeping or retaining any log information at all. So that's the crux between how it works offline. So you might be now thinking on how upgrades are done if that is offline. So we do have an offline, a TGZ, a GZ file that's getting uploaded in your Customer Connect portal. You'll have to manually push the upgrades, using the offline method, which is explained in the install guide. So by doing that, you can keep yourself upgraded with the offline SSD as well. So we have both upgrade online and offline modes available with Skyline Health Diagnostics. All right. So let's move on with demo. So I am not looking at Okay, so we have a question. When integrating SSD into vCenter, there must be a display. I don't know what we're trying to mean by this. So I'm not clear with the question, Eric, if you can come back to us again. So we have an integration with SSD with vCenter. I'll show you that in the demo right now in some time, but I'm not sure if you're talking about any specific issue. If yes, I will give you, my email address along with Anshuman's. Okay. So if you're talking about some specific issue, we can take it up, offline. You can drop me an email, Anshuman an email. We will buzz it on the chat for you, and you can reach us out if you have any specific questions on an issue. All right, we will move on with demo. So here we have an environment which is 8.0. I have a 8.0 vCenter with some of the hosts here, two of the hosts as such, and I've already deployed an SSD appliance. So we will go through how to deploy first. I know we might have some of the customers who are new to this product as well. So we'll go through the OVF deployment phase first, and then we will cover the management usability of how SSD works. And then we will cover the demo of use cases. I will pick up some example reports on how SSD could analyze specific issues and then, help resolve the problem as well. So we'll start with the deployment first. So as usual, let me show you the download page first. Hold on a second. So if you log on to the Customer Connect portal, you would see a couple of things. One is the install guide PDF, where you can use this for management of SSD and installation of SSD as well. You would see an appliance.ova, for SSD. This is 4.0.1. That's the current version that is running. We will talk about what is the difference between these two, but this is the file that I was talking about for offline upgrades. So if you're using SSD in an offline mode, and if you want to, upgrade SSD without any internet connectivity, this is the file that you were supposed to be downloading. And then the steps are mentioned in the install guides to offline upgrade the SSD. It's just that you need to execute this, using the SSH command line, and you're good to go. You're upgraded with the latest version. Now we will talk about what is the key difference between this file, which says appliance-4.0.1.ova versus appliance plugins, 4.0.1. So for any customers who are using vCenter server 8.0 U1 and onwards, so we have 8.0 U2 as well right now. So any customers who are using this and above, 80U1 and above, should use this particular plugin. So we will talk about why. From 80U1 onwards, SSD is now fully integrated with the vSphere client as a plugin, right? So anyone can simply download this and then register the appliance to a specific VC using this particular OVA deployment. And if anybody has older versions of VC, can use this download to download the image and execute it and deploy the appliance. So that's a nutshell of what we find in the Customer Connect portal. So I have downloaded a file already. Let's deploy. So let's use this. So I'll give a name of the VC, the virtual machine name or the appliance name. I will go next. I will choose the host where I have to deploy the OVA. I'll go next. So it'll list down all the version detail of the appliance for you. So we go next. We'll accept all the license agreement. I will choose storage. You can choose 10 provisioning, should be good. I'll go next. I'll choose a virtual machine network for the appliance. So here's where I would need some attention. So we have two things, during the deployment that it would ask. One would be root password, and the other one would be the SSD-admin, password as well. So the root password is primarily for your Photon OS, right? So the OS appliance password is what it'll ask first. So you can give that. And the SSD-admin is the default admin account that creates, that's getting created as and when you deploy the first SSD in your environment. So this is the default administrator account. So you would give that password as well. So the rest of it, you can leave it blank, or you can give, so let's say I give a name for the host name. If you have a default, IP address, you can give that. If it is static, if it is DHCP, you can leave it blank. You go next, and then you can click on finish. So we'll not wait until the appliance deployment is done. Like I said, I've already have a deployed appliance. So all you need to do is wait until the appliance is deployed. The script execution is automated. You don't have to do anything. There's no manual intervention whatsoever. All you need to do is, once the appliance is powered on, copy the IP address, paste it on your web browser, log in with your SSD-admin account, and it will bring you to this page. So at the first glance, you would see this is blank. You would not see any profiles saved because that's a new deployed appliance. So this is how your management page looks like. So don't get confused with the themes. This is a lighter theme, and I'm using a dark theme just for the visibility sake. So once you log on to the management page, you can click on new analysis. So this was one of the features that came up with SSD. This is for the folks who know SSD in the past, and you might have seen 3.5 versions, right? So earlier versions in SSD had a UI where we had to connect to the specific product and then execute the analysis. So what used to happen was, it was a user-defined task every time that it needed a manual intervention always to do a execution. So this now got evolved in a way of saved profiles, where once you create a profile and save it, customers can reuse the same profiles, or as times you can reuse the profiles later on, for any assessments. So you see this. I have a target. This is the VCF as an environment, It's doing diagnostic checks. It's doing upgrade assessment checks. We'll talk about what this is. It is manual in state. You can re-execute this. I can select and click run. It's actually in a limbo state. It's actually run an execution. So I'll have to restart this to fix it though. But yeah, so you can execute, rerun the existing profile again, to run the existing profile, save profile. So how do we create a new one? So let's talk about creating an analysis, right, or profile. So you can pick and you click on new analysis, pick and choose what products you want. So like I said, all the products that you see here are covered. This is 4.0. We will see what is in 4.1. So this is 4.1. I'm sorry, 4.0.1. We have additional products here. Horizon and Cloud Gateway is also covered with 4.0.1 right now. So you could choose what products you want, and then you can configure the analysis based on the products that are there. So I will choose, let's say, Cloud Foundation, and pick and choose what type of assessment I want to do, right? So here you will find a couple of things. One is SDDC managed diagnostics. So if there is an outage on your SDDC manager, you can use this. Advisory scans, security vulnerability issues can be scanned from this. Anywhere you find health checks, right? So keep this in mind. You have vCenter health check. You have VCF health check as well. So these health checks can be scheduled. So we have a scheduler that can run scheduling, and you can run it daily, weekly, and monthly basis. Let me show you one workflow. So let's say we pick up this. I will provide. Okay. So this can be scheduled either daily, weekly, or monthly, and then you would start, executing it based on how you schedule, and there's no manual intervention needed here. So you just give a profile name. I would say VCF, health checks 01. We check for duplicate. So here's where I was talking about. So you can do it either daily, weekly, or monthly. It will run pre-checks automatically without any user intervention. So I will not complete this. So you go next, and you can save and run. It will save the profile, and then it will automatically execute the profile for you. But I wanted to show you something else. So with pre-upgrade assessment, now this is something same. I mean, there's a similar feature with vCenter as well, where we call it as upgrade pre-check, and in Cloud Foundation we call it as pre-upgrade assessment. What is this all about? So this is something unique, standing out apart from, I would call it a specific SHD feature that's not available in Advisor, right? So upgrade assessments are predominantly, as a customer. So I'll give you a use case scenario. As a customer, you would use 2 hours of maintenance. Let's say you're upgrading a VCF environment, and I need 4 hours of the whole downtime, including my BOM components, which includes my vCenter, my NSX, my SDDC manager, my host, and whatnot. So approximately I schedule a 4 hours downtime, right? So you're upgrading, let's say you ran VC upgrade and you ran into an issue right now, right? While you're having a maintenance window, and your maintenance window is about 4 hours. Now, typically you're solving, an outage issue during this 4 hours of window, which is kind of not, you're wasting a maintenance window by doing a production outage where your system is down. You might have backups running at the back end, and other things, users define. I mean, there have been a lot of other things that could be running on the back end, right? That are all stalled right now, and you're doing something else rather than upgrading. So that's where SHD stands out, where you can assess what's happening in your environment. And we'll talk about the use case scenarios in these two, specifically on how detailed these checks are and what it does. In some of the checks, it actually does live checks in your environment, like DNS and DHCP validation, FQDN validation, PNID checks. I can go on with the list. We'll touch base on some reports in the later discussions. But these two checks are predominantly used prior upgrades. So let's say your maintenance window is coming up this weekend for 4 hours. Let's say 2 hours, prior to the maintenance window, you would start the upgrade assessment checks. Let's say if you're doing for vCenter, do it for vCenter. If you're doing VCF, you can also do VCF health checks, pre-upgrade assessment checks to validate how good is your environment to upgrade. So based on the SST results, you can actually, confirm that, yes, I'm good at it. So this is one use case example that we spoke about at the initial phase as well. Things like ELM, enhanced link mode check, VMDIR checks are done, through this assessments, right? And that could be overlooked by, in a nutshell, we may tend to overlook that, those things by avoiding, we are trying to avoid the situation, an outage situation there by validating this through SSD. And that's the crux of it. And this is a new feature, which is enabled through TAM supports. So for those customers who are all in this call today, who have TAM supports, through TAMs, you can run VCF verify checks, right? So TAMs have license for this, where you can enable this, and then they can run health checks detail in your environment to validate how, what is the stability of an environment? Are there any critical fixes that needs to be done, and things like that. So we used to have something called as health analyzer. Now that is onboarded with SSD as of today. That is part of TAM support for you, right? And TAMs can help you analyze with this. Now, these are some of the features with VCF. And like I said, vCenter also comes with pre-check, which also analyze something very much in detail. So pre-checks and pre-upgrade checks that are there in VCF and vCenter, this cannot be scheduled. It does a lot of detailed review and assessment of your environment live. And that's why it has to be driven only during prior upgrade situations and not all the time, right? So you just keep that in mind. This is only to be used prior upgrades because there is a lot of cycles involved in terms of validating and running. So you'll see that in the reports that I show you eventually, but that's a crux of it. But apart from that, you have other products to connect and go over. You can connect through vSphere directly, where you also cover ESXi checks as well. You can even cover ESXi directly. If there is a host that you want to diagnose and then figure out, upgrades, failed, and then you want to see what happened with the upgrades, those kind of things can, be done through this as well. So that brings us to the end of profiles discussion. So, how to save, execute, you can save it. Once the profiles are saved, you can run, the profile through this, and then you can remove and duplicate the profile also. So what does log analysis do? So this, remember we were talking about offline assistance of logs. Log analysis offline can also be done. So let's say you have installed SSD in an air gap environment, or I would say as a customer, I don't want external intrusion, right? So I want SSD to be, in a dev setup or a non-production environment, and I want to use, SSD to just analyze logs remotely and not to interfere inside my dark site. In that case, I can use SSD remotely as well. So I can use log bundle analysis offline and say remote file. In here, I can choose any remote FTP location. You can have a remote FTP site, say, which is created for log, bundles saved, which has existing log bundles saved from different entities. Let's say you have a vCenter or a ESXi in your environment, which has logs uploaded in a specific, location in your site, which is remote again, and has permissions to be authorized, right? We can use it based on user level permissions, and then SSD can do log analysis offline also for you. Similarly, if you have a log file locally in your local system, I can pick and choose upload log data. So let's say I want to do SD-WAN log analysis. So I can pick and choose, click next, and then click on finish and run. So it will diagnose and then pull up the reports and then diagnose and then start running the SD-WAN logs. So as of today, SD-WAN is supported only using hidden mode in 4.0. But I think, Anshuman, just correct me if I'm wrong, we still don't have a UI. Okay, so yeah, so SD-WAN is still in a hidden mode as of today, even with 4.0.1. It's not visible completely. It is still available in a tech preview mode. If somebody wants to do analysis, you will have to do similarly like the way I'm doing right now. You'll have to offline upload the logs, get the log data validated, and then it will give you the analysis by that. So that gives you a crux of how to do, diagnostics or diagnosis using SHD, right? So we'll now talk about reports. What are the different types of reports that are getting saved and how do you view them? So under the reports tab, you expand, you would see all reports, different types of segments. So you have different products. You select the specific product and it will give you reports for that specific product that's got executed. You can even go based on collection. So if you go to analyze tab under every profile, you can click on latest report and we'll give you the latest report from here also, right? So if anyone wants to save a report, can click on this, say download, and it will directly download the log, the HTML file, and then you can use it for audit purpose for later on as well. So these files are never deleted. It is going to stay unless a user comes and manually clicks on delete and then remove it off, right? So it's going to stay. So what else? Under settings tab, so we will now talk about how to manage SSD in terms of what are the other options available. So if anyone is willing to upgrade SSD from a previous version, let's say if a customer is running SSD with version 3.5. So this is a 3.5. Sorry, this is not a 3.5. Let me open up the 3.5. All right, so this, if anybody is looking for an upgrade, you just can, again, if you're working on a online internet available environment with your SSD, then all you need to do is click on check tool updates and then say, here you see there's a 4.0.1 version available. You can click on download updates and then downloads can come right away. So for those customers who are moving from 3.5 to 4.0 or for the latest version, I would put it that way, right? So online upgrades are supported. All you need to do is click on check tool updates and then download tool updates, and then it will give you the latest version. But if you're using SSD in an offline mode with no internet connectivity with version 3.5, offline upgrades are no longer supported, right? So when I say no longer supported, since 4.0 is a major version upgrade, the only way to move from 3.5 offline version to the offline version of 4.0 would be a new deployment, right? So we don't have in-place upgrade as such. So one can use internet capable SSD to upgrade if they have internet, and if there is no internet, then it would be a direct 4.0 deployment for them. But with 4.0 to 4.0.1 version, right, if they have to deploy a newer version of 4.0.1, that can be downloaded using this or upgraded using this particular offline patch. right? So this can be used still. So that's the crux of how to upgrade this offline. Now let's talk about plugin registrations. So SSD comes with this feature was there way long back where you can register a plugin. So with VC 80U1 onwards, like I said earlier before, you already have. So I log into my vSphere client. This is 80U1 plus. Okay, so I go to vSphere client and then under the home, you click on health diagnostics. I have not registered a SSD yet for this. So you can deploy SSD right from here and register it to this VC. Or let's say if the VC is part of enhanced linked mode, somebody's using VCF in your environment, I have more than one vCenter in this inventory, right? Those customers can use deploy option from here and then pick and choose which vCenter you want to deploy the SSD to, and then you can deploy it there as well. So in a nutshell, once you have this enabled, you are using this way. So let me log in here. I will show you what I'm talking about. So with the vSphere client itself, you can start managing all the workflows now, where you can manage deploy workflows and everything can be done using this space. So let me log in here. If you see this, I can click on start and analyze. This is a registered instance right now where the appliance 67, the IP67 is registered. I can click on start, analyze, and then say new diagnostics. So customers can just log into their vSphere client and directly start managing SSD. So they don't have to go out of vSphere client and managing things. So things can be done within the same inventory as well. So this is applicable for any versions right from 3.5 and above. We have it. So like I said in the earlier discussion, from 80U1 onwards, it's automatically there within the product where you can start registering SSD directly, right? Or one can come here and then choose plugins to register and it will still register the vCenter for you. But this is for the folks who are not on 80U1 yet. You can come here and register from here as well. Right, so that's one feature for you. So let's now talk about help and support. This is the most important thing. So I think I've not touched base on this point. SSD is an absolute product that is free of cost. There's no licensing involved. Anybody or any customers who have Customer Connect portal download can download it and and deploy it in your environment. So for support. Let's say if you have any outages and issues with SSD, we have community-based support right here. You can click on help and support and click on this page. It will directly take you to the SSD communities. Anshuman, myself, and we have other technical directors who are, product, support teams as well. The development folks who are part of the support here who will help you in case if you're running into some issues. So we may ask you the support bundle, which you will get right from here for SSD. It is a pretty small bundle. You can also reach out to this alias if you have any issues with SSD, right? So that's how support is as of today. So scheduler, we have, like I said, this is to be enabled for the first time. Once you enable this, you can schedule all your health checks using the scheduler directly. And this has been running a while as well. So that's about it. So let's talk about some reports. Before I move on, I just want to quickly take a look at the Q&A. I think most of them are answered. Okay, so I think we'll move on with some use case as such, right? So what are the typical use case, as in how SSD can help with diagnosing? What are the typical issues that it can help you diagnose? So This is a TAM-based feature that we spoke about, which TAMs can help you diagnose. We see a verify checks. There's a lot of detailed analysis that it can do in terms of what's outstanding in your environment. Including, like I said, in certain cases, it will SSD will need live environment. Like if you look at this, it's actually doing a vRealize ping health check as well. So certain things, like I said, pre-upgrade assessment checks can be run offline. Prior upgrade itself is because of this, because it will validate your environment, by validating certain parameters. So in this case, it is validating your VC ring topology. So this is the status what I was talking about, where if your ELM is broken, enhanced link mode is broken, it will possibly come up as red, right? And it will tell you it is broken. SSH health check, disk space, certificate health, all of these are part of these checks for you. Now, pre-upgrade checks are also having some of these checks in terms of validating. This is the vCenter pre-upgrade check. Prior upgrading your vCenter, you can use this. Certificate health, if it is expired, DB space, these things we don't do checks, right? So I put myself into customer shoes. Why would I even go and check my DB health? I mean, is my DB having space or not? That's expected to throw up an alarm. That's what the customers would think, right? We have instances, we've seen instances where alarms triggered could fail. People, tend to ignore a lot of other things. So these things can be caught through, your pre-checks that SSD does as of today. And if there is something caught, then, it will flag it right away. So you see this, it is flagging it as red. And if you scroll down, it will give you a solution as well. So here you see red, it says ETC issue check. There is a corrupt, or truncated, ETC issue suspected. And the solution is your KB. So now this is another, thing that you might also wonder, that is the solution also automated? No. So with SSD, it's going to give you an accurate KB as a solution, or an accurate step as a solution. Executing that is a customer or a user intended task. It's a manual task, right? So now you might think, why can't this be automated as well? There are discussions on that as well, where certain things can be automated based on user permissions. These are in roadmap and in discussions. I don't have much ETA or full detail around the ETA on those lines, but there are discussions around how to automate certain, tasks as well, where customers can simply sit back and enjoy the use of SSD, rather than executing things manually. So those discussions are also in play right now. So coming back to the report, so in this case, it says that there's a failure, and it's talking about the accurate KB. So I'll show you how this is getting validated through the KB as well. So it goes through release notes. It also does log checks. Why am I saying it does log checks? So here is one of the examples why it does log checks. So here's a nick down. Unless there is an incident event reported in your environment, you would literally not see a link down, right? So if you're running SSD diagnosis, it can accurately track when it happened based on the log check, and it can give you the analysis with the KB as to what needs to be done next, right? So this is outage on your network. Now, this one is where SSD stands out very uniquely, right? So there is no product in VMware as of today that can do this task, right? So SSD can debug a PSOD kernel dump. In other words, let's say your ESXi host ran into a PSOD, and most of the time, 99% of the time, if you engage support, they would ask you to upload logs. I used to be an engineer way back at a time as well. So the typical scenario is you would do, you would actually debug the backtrace, and then you would go through the backtrace to figure out what is the logical issue behind it. It could be drivers, it could be, and it needs manual execution of each and every steps in terms of executing this. We do have some internal scripts that execute this internally, but this is now externally available for you as a customer. So which means SSD can debug the backtrace for you without any human intervention and then give you the analysis with, in terms of, here it shows that there is a PSOR outage and it is matching with a KB, that there is a race condition and a problem with the driver. And this is where SSD is differentiated between advisor. Now the advisor is proactively only telling you that this could hit a PSOR, right? But SSD is debugging the logs and then telling you that this is a PSOR and here is your fix for the KB, right? So that's the major difference between these two as well. So having said that, moving up, VMSAs. So this is a common thing that Advisor also does. Skyline Advisor also does, vulnerability validation in terms of what, outstanding issues and vulnerabilities we have in the environment that can be validated as well. SSD can also do driver validation in terms of what is supported and if it is latest or not, and if it is unsupported, and if what are the supported versions of drivers available in the public website. So if it is not latest, it will tell you it is not latest, and if it is not supported, it will flag it not supported. Then there is a concern as a customer that you will have to validate why it is not supported. So these are some of the use cases of SSD. So this is one report with TAM Health. This is a TAM only based feature for all the customers available in this group right now. So this is a long list of checks that that your environment can run and give you based on priorities, and what is the check that has been run and what's the best practices that can be covered, right? So this is one capability of SSD along with the TAM supports that you have. I think we covered. Okay, this is the upgrade assessment check for VCF. Remember I spoke about prior upgrade, you have to run SSD so that SSD can validate your environment. See the amount of checks that SSD is doing and the number of iterations, right? So it is recursively checking what is the status of this particular entity. Is it failing at any time or not? I mean, small things, right? Subtle things like VPXA validation. What happened to the service? Is the host even connected? See this, it says services running on the host. As users, we tend to ignore all this, right? So I mean, when I say, I'm not blaming you as a customer, but the awareness of the product or the vastness of the product is so big that even engineers, support engineers tend to miss this at times, right? So if VPXA is not running, then this is a flag for us, right? So that means the host is disconnected. So similarly, a lot of other things like, NSX controller failed all of a sudden, right? What happened to that? All of this can be captured with this one report of pre-check. And if you're running with, VCF. Now with 4.0.1, we also cover the vRealize suite. It's renamed as ARIA operations, ARIA automations. All that suite under ARIA is also covered under 4.0.1, right? So that is also a new feature that we have right now. So in a nutshell, all of these, checks are done in multiple iterations so that we are validating your environment is safe to be upgraded. And certain things are really specific to, VCF. So in this case, it is validating host has no disconnected physical NICs from DVS, and it's showing status as green, right? Which means it's validating your network also. So like I said, this specific report, which is, again, I will show to you from here, when you select VCF upgrade assessment, has to be done, prior upgrades only, because there's a lot of iterations that it runs against your environment, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. So, I think that brings the one last report that I would really like to show here is the VC report. So let me show you this one report as well. So for the folks who are worried about VC outages, so if you see this, this is 503 service unavailable. Most likely we would see this if your vCenter is crashed with services. What happened, it is actually reviewing the logs and then coming back and telling you that there's a service VPXT that is crashed, and it is also telling you the KB accurately with the analysis of what needs to be done. So this is the accuracy of SSD versus Skyline Advisor, right? So looking at the logs and then analyzing what happened in your environment is the automation right now with SSD available. So that's why I said these two products are two unique, different products with two different unique use cases as well. So this is more of post and outage situation where you would look at what happened with my vCenter in the environment, right? So that's what the validation is happening here. So this is a nutshell of what are the different use case of reports that we cover and a demo. We are open to questions. So I would want to touch base on one quick thing in terms of enablement. So I have, I will send this to Chris, and and Chris would in turn, share this slide with the other TAMs in this group. TAMs, you can forward the slides to your customers as well. So we have some public videos, YouTube videos, on how SSD can be used, different use cases. And we've also covered some, documentation in terms of FAQs that are available. I will share this record. I mean, I'm pretty sure this recording is also getting shared, but we will also share some additional contents with you folks. And if you have any assistance or you need any assistance, later on, do reach us out. We'll be more than happy to help. Anshuman, do you want to cover anything else? Any other points that you feel that should be covered here?
No, I guess we are good, Abhilash. There is just one open question. If you can address it.
Let me go through that. Okay. In the release note of SSD 4, it says the following functions will be considered in the future releases. Then ELM is listed among others. Does it mean that? Okay. I'm not sure, John, of what specific release notes are you talking about. Maybe I can go back and relook at it, but I can tell you the context of ELM. So let me bring up my report here. Yeah, so if you come to enhance linked mode, you have something called as VMDAR check, right? So I'm looking at a pre-upgrade check here. So we sent a pre-upgrade check. So you will get this, you click on new analysis, click on vCenter server. I'm talking about this report. So you start executing this report, you would see this report getting executed, right? So once you execute that workflow, you're automatically running, VMDAR check. So it is actually validating your ELM, which means enhanced linked mode with replication status is getting validated in terms of what's happening. So if you want to be a little more, okay, so I think you've pasted. Let me see what exactly you are talking about. I don't see anything in terms of. Anshuman, are you aware of what is this specific ELM cluster we're talking about? I mean, at least to answer your question, John, ELM is already covered with SSD as a check, right? So I mean, we can connect offline in terms of what exactly. Are you talking about this will address the following scenarios in future releases?
Yeah, I think that's it. I was just looking at
it.
That's what it looks like.
Okay. So, yeah, so this is primarily talking about a single inventory. So, okay, I'll tell you what we're talking about here. So assume I've launched a vSphere client session with this particular vCenter, right? and I'm connecting to, DHCP 4066, which is my 801 VC, and assume that I have more than one VCs in this inventory, right? So the question or the release notes talking about here is enhanced linked mode with multiple vCenters, meaning can an SSD that is deployed in this environment cover multiple extended vCenters in the same inventory, which for sure now it is not covered. I think they're trying to include that in the later releases. As of now, like I said, ELM is covered based on checks, which is done in your pre-checks already, which is more than enough to, so all you need to do is tell the customer, or, you can go back to your environment, run pre-checks in your vCenter, which is already running ELM. It could be your, VCF environment as well. So I can run it in one of the VCs against SSD. Run SSD against one of the VCs. And if you're validating the VMDIR check, that should be good enough. So you're actually validating the replication status of the VMDIR right there. It is also checking, a couple of other things additionally, since we are covering this topic. You are also looking at lookup services check. You're also looking at PNID check. Yeah, there you go. So this check is also getting validated. So all of these are related to your, replication break and things like that. So there are a lot of things that are covered already in your pre-checks, which can be done and validate, it can validate your environment. The only usability feature that, that's mentioned in the release note is a single pane of glass approach, which cannot cover more than one VC, and that is coming up in the later versions. So that's the, update what's mentioned here.
Yeah, and also just to add, in case you want to perform the diagnostics on the ELM linked mode vCenter, right? You can always use SSD client and point to the vCenters. So it will treat them as a separate vCenter.
Yep. So I think what Anshuman is talking about, this one. So you flip down and then you can choose other vCenter, appliances, or from let's say this particular vCenter, vSphere client, I can pick and choose what appliance I want to execute the workflow on, and then you can run it through the plugin directly against the registered plugin. Yeah.
Or else you can always log into the SSD client itself and then point to the vCenters which you want to diagnose. Even if they are into enhanced link mode, it will just run the diagnostics on the vCenter target what you have chosen.
Yeah. So that at the moment I would need one SSD instance for each vCenter. Actually, no. So as long as, okay, so let me put it this way. So if you are not registered, let's say I'm not registering so in this case, I don't have my VC registered with any appliance, okay? So I can go use manual execution. I can choose vCenter from here. I would select health check, or let's say pre-check. I can go next. I can choose this VC from here and manually execute it, right? So this means as long as my VC is reachable over network from this SSD appliance, I can execute it as long as it is available over network and the required ports open, right? So in a nutshell, if I'm talking about a VCF environment, I can have a standalone SSD that's not registered to any of the VCs whatsoever. And I can have the SSD, reachable to all the VCs over network, right? Where it is converging or it is available across both the networks of the VC. I can still use it against the environment to validate the checks. I hope that answers the question. I think this question was from Christopher. So all I need is to save this profile. I'll say connect. So it says connected. Okay, I think I did not touch this point. So if you have your SMTP configured, you can also send email notifications to your email account based on the configuration as well. So you go next. I click on run. So this profile is getting saved. So the moment this profile is saved, Okay, so I'm using 8001. I think I executed this from a 4.0 environment, so that's why you're not running this. Anyway, so once this profile is saved, you can pick and choose, and then you can execute it against that particular environment. As long as it is available over network, you should still be okay to execute it. All right. Anything
Good
else?
questions.
I think that's about all the questions, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, all good questions. And just to reiterate this point, yes, we will share this information, all the links that you had that will be provided by your TAM, along with the recording link. Sorry, let me look here. Yep, so I think that is it. So again, this was recorded and we'll make it available to you. Next month, just a quick reminder, we're going to be looking at vSphere Plus, some of the updates there and the services that go with it. So hopefully you can make it for that. That's November 2nd. Your TAM will make that registration link available to you. And we look forward to seeing you for that at that time. Thank you for presenting on this topic, and thanks to everyone for joining. Hope you have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, team. Thanks for your time.